The auditorium at Kencana University was packed with students from various faculties, professors, and curious onlookers who had come with high expectations to attend a public debate that had become a trending topic across the campus. On this occasion, two prominent figures from the religious sphere faced each other. Pastor Jeff, a well-known 65-year-old Protestant church leader, famous for his inspiring sermons and widely respected, and Ustaz Raffi, a young Islamic scholar trained at Al-Azhar who had returned to Indonesia just 2 years earlier. Ustaz Raffi had earned a reputation for his incisive yet always respectful argumentative style, capable of provoking deep reflections in those who listened to him. That day, the atmosphere was far from that of an ordinary lecture. The audience was not there merely to hear the positions of two religious representatives, but to witness the clash of two different visions of faith. Was Jesus God or a prophet? The question undoubtedly captured attention and stirred internal dilemmas in many of those present. Some shared the pastor's ideas, while others saw the encounter as an opportunity to broaden their spiritual understanding. The anticipation was palpable. Everyone eagerly awaited the interventions of both speakers, each backed by strong convictions and well-founded arguments. The moderator took the floor with determination. The topic that brings us together today. Jesus, God or prophet? Pastor Jeff, the floor is yours. With calm composure, Pastor Jeff stood up. His deep, magnetic voice turned every sentence into a statement that seemed unquestionable. Jesus is the Son of God, one with the Father, the Word made flesh who descended to the world to offer redemption to all humanity. He is the God who loves his people, the creator of the universe and everything within it, he declared with complete confidence. However, in the midst of his speech, a soft yet firm voice interrupted him. Pac Pendeta, if Jesus is God, can God feel hunger, sleep, or be crucified? Ustaz Raffi's question struck quickly and sharply, like a sudden blow. Several students widened their eyes in astonishment. They had not expected such a direct and piercing opening. Some laughed nervously, while others fell into deep contemplation. The most striking aspect was not the question itself, but how it completely changed the atmosphere. From serene and respectful to one filled with tension. Pastor Jeff, usually calm, showed slight confusion. A blush spread across his cheeks, though he tried to maintain composure. God is capable of everything. His divine nature does not disappear even if his body suffers, he replied, raising his left hand and clutching tightly the crucifix hanging from his neck. Yet Ustaz Raffi did not allow him to elaborate. If his body could die, Pac Pendeta, then God is not truly eternal. Is it possible for God to die? If God can die, that would imply there is something stronger than him, something that also has limitations. How could a perfect God have such restrictions? These statements caused uneasy murmurs among the students. Some shifted in their seats, unsure whose reasoning to follow. It was clear that this was not a question to be easily dismissed. The exchange had ceased to be an intellectual discussion and had transformed into a confrontation between faith and reason. Pastor Jeff, now visibly tense, replied hurriedly, "Young man, you fail to understand the mystery of divinity. It is something that transcends human logic." However, his assertions were becoming increasingly unconvincing. The tension in the room was growing. The students, who initially only wanted to witness an exchange of ideas, now felt the weight of the pressure filling the space. They understood that what was at stake was not a mere theological theory but deeply held convictions forged over years. Ustaz Raffi continued speaking with serenity, though with firm determination. Pac Pendeta, if God is eternal, how could he die? Doesn't that contradict logic? If Jesus is God, why did he pray? Why did he ask for help? Does God need assistance? His voice grew firmer, and each sentence aimed precisely at the core of the pastor's reasoning. Jeff, who seemed to be losing control of the situation, tried to divert the topic. Jesus prayed to set an example for his people, to teach them the correct way to approach God, he responded, his words slightly trembling. But Ustaz Raffi insisted without hesitation. If Jesus were God, why would he need to set an example? Isn't God perfect? Why would he imitate humans in the act of praying? That shows he had limitations. The comment triggered uneasy murmurs among those present, while the pastor appeared increasingly cornered. "Do not toy with our faith," Jeff exclaimed in a raised voice, his body shaking slightly. "This is not a mere academic exchange. It is a matter of belief." He struggled to maintain his dignity before an audience showing signs of division. Yet Ustaz Raffi, calm and unflappable, replied, "Pak Pendeta, I do not intend to belittle your faith. I only wish to find the truth. I merely pose a question. If Jesus is God, why did he have to suffer? Why was he led to the cross? Can God be wounded? If so, what truly distinguishes him from an ordinary man? Does that mean God can suffer like any human being?" he asked in a challenging tone. Pastor Jeff fell silent. He kept his gaze fixed on Ustaz Raffi, but for the first time could not find a convincing answer. Those questions were too precise, too reasonable to contradict. He clutched his cross tightly, as if it were the only refuge capable of calming the storm within him. Ustaz Raffi continued, "Pastor, if Jesus is truly God, why on the cross did he exclaim, 'Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani'? That is a plea directed to God, right? Or would God be speaking to himself?" This is not simply a question, but an argument indicating that Jesus was not God, but a prophet with a special connection to him. Pastor Jeff was beginning to lose his composure. His face was turning redder by the second. "The only thing you do is look for weaknesses in others' faith. This is not about logic, it's about belief," he replied, almost shouting. Nevertheless, Ustaz Raffi remained seated, breathing calmly, with a serene expression but a piercing gaze. "I am not trying to undermine your faith, Pastor. I am only seeking to reach absolute truth. If you claim that Jesus is God, reason must be in harmony with revelation. There can be no contradiction between the two." Tension filled the room. Some students whispered among themselves, others were restless, unsure of which position to take. But one thing was clear. With every sentence, Ustaz Raffi was cornering Pastor Jeff, who seemed trapped in his own uncertainties. "Do not distort what I say," exclaimed the pastor. "Jesus is God because he conquered death and resurrected." Courteously, Ustaz Raffi responded, "Pastor, if Jesus truly came back to life after death, does that mean death managed to conquer God? God cannot die, right? How could he be subject to the limits of death? This rather suggests that Jesus was an ordinary human being, not God." Pastor Jeff fell silent again. His hands clutched the cross, and his body trembled slightly. Deep inside, a spark of doubt began to emerge. Everything he had taught, all the beliefs he had defended, started to waver. Had he received this faith as inheritance, or had he truly sought the truth for himself? As the debate grew more intense, he felt unbearable pressure. Every question from Ustaz Raffi was like a knife piercing his heart, dismantling layer after layer of convictions he had built over the years. The crowded hall seemed to shrink as a growing unease enveloped him. It was like being in the middle of a battlefield where every word was a sharp weapon and every sentence a bullet striking his faith directly. If this story has made you reflect and connect with your own experiences, don't stop at just reading it. Like it to show your support. Share this message so more people can find meaning and depth in their lives. And subscribe so you don't miss the upcoming stories we bring with so much heart and significance. The pastor gripped the cross even tighter, as if it were his only source of security and peace. Yet the more he tried to cling to his beliefs, the harder it became to escape the questions that unsettled him. Calmly and decisively, Ustaz Raffi posed his questions again. Pastor, if Jesus is God, why did he pray? Does a God need assistance? Why would an omnipotent being have to demonstrate how to pray? That question exploded in Pastor Jeff's mind like an unexpected blast. Within him, doubt began to slowly germinate. He recalled the days when he felt the call to ministry, the lessons about an omnipotent and unquestionable God he had learned. Now, Ustaz Raffi's words seemed to challenge that image of divine perfection directly. How could a perfect God require help? Jeff lowered his gaze, feeling trapped. The room, previously filled with murmurs, fell silent. He only heard the echo of his own heart. All eyes were on him, waiting for an answer he could not give. Words caught in his throat. Inside, he fought an intense battle. He wanted to hold on to his faith, but doubt advanced relentlessly. It was like trying to float in an ocean of unanswered questions, with no firm ground to cling to. Perceiving the stillness around them, Ustaz Raffi looked at him tenderly. Pastor, I am not trying to diminish your faith. I only wish for us to explore a deeper truth together. God is absolutely perfect, and if we seek Him with a sincere heart, we will find the authentic answer. Pastor Jeff lifted his gaze. A faint glimmer of tears appeared in his eyes, something no one had noticed before. An intense doubt shook the foundations of his faith. In an almost whispering voice, he murmured, I'm not sure anymore. The room was filled with intense emotion. Pastor Jeff, always known for his firmness, now appeared vulnerable. He let out a long sigh, as if trying to release the weight accumulated over so many years. His whole being seemed to collapse, and for the first time, he experienced what he had always hidden, doubts about the truth he had inherited. A deep silence took over the auditorium. No one spoke. Only empty gazes met. Everyone waited expectantly. Some students remained silent, others shed tears, some felt confused, and many were moved witnessing Pastor Jeff's transformation. The scene was charged with emotion and strong internal tension. Ustaz Raffi observed the pastor with understanding. He was not trying to dominate the discussion. His intention was sincere dialogue. Pastor, he murmured softly, I do not wish for you to feel that you have lost here. I only want us to seek the truth together, beyond who is right or wrong. Ustaz Raffi's words fell like rain refreshing an arid desert. Pastor Jeff, finding nothing to respond with, remained silent. Inside, a new feeling was awakening, deeper than pride in the faith he had cultivated for years. It was a genuine desire to discover something more valuable than any previous certainty. A Christian student, sitting in the last row, timidly raised his hand. His voice was low, almost a whisper, but full of curiosity. Pastor, he asked hesitantly, is it possible that we have misinterpreted who Jesus is? Could there be something deeper about Jesus that we have yet to understand? Pastor Jeff slowly turned his head toward him. His gaze lost and puzzled. He did not utter a word. His face, once firm and stern, now showed cracks, reflecting the doubt he had always tried to hide. Something inside him changed at that moment. A door that had been closed for years began to open. He began to question everything he had accepted as certain. Is Jesus only the Son of God? Are the teachings he had received truly absolute truths? What if reality is broader than he had imagined? What does God truly expect of him? As he sat down again, His face no longer conveyed rigidity or authority. Instead, it showed serenity, though with an unmistakable emptiness. He held the cross gently, as if fearing that letting it go would mean losing the support that had always given him strength. After a moment of silence, Pastor Jeff stood up. There were no harsh words nor traces of anger. He walked slowly toward Ustaz Raffi, almost hesitantly. Standing before him, he extended his hand, a gesture full of meaning. "Thank you," he whispered. "Thank you for reminding me that I must seek the truth for myself, and not merely inherit it." Ustaz Raffi smiled and returned the greeting with respect, slightly bowing his head as a sign of esteem toward the pastor who was beginning to open his heart. "I only show the way, Pastor. Genuine truth does not need to be forced. It reveals itself when we seek it sincerely," he said, offering a smile full of empathy. The room fell silent. Gradually, some students approached, forming a small circle around the two leaders. Some remained quiet, others shed tears, and several smiled, moved. That moment of sincerity and the quest for truth deeply touched many. A Christian student, eyes brimming with tears, hugged Pastor Jeff tenderly. "I also wish to learn about Islam. Not because I've lost, but because I want to understand more," he murmured through sobs. Pastor Jeff looked at him and offered a smile he had never shown before, a smile full of acceptance. Then he turned his attention back to Ustaz Raffi. His face, once tense, now showed a renewed calm. "I feel I have found something more valuable than a simple victory in this debate," he said with a voice full of gratitude. "I believe this is the beginning of a broader path, a path dedicated to seeking authentic truth." Ustaz Raffi nodded slowly. Truth does not always manifest with a loud clamor. Sometimes it comes through sincerity and the willingness to open one's heart. He replied clearly and thoughtfully. "I trust, Pastor, that God will guide us all along the path to find His way." At the end of the meeting, Pastor Jeff no longer spoke as a defender of inherited teachings, but as an ordinary person longing to discover who the true God is. The tension that had once filled the room dissolved into serenity. There was no longer a sense of defeat or victory, only the genuine desire to understand God. That night, Pastor Jeff did not return home with a tangible achievement, but with a lighter, more receptive heart. He knew that his journey toward authentic truth had only just begun, and he was ready to walk it with a more sincere heart.